Beverly Bryan, Stella Dadsey, Susan Scaffey. Now, this book was originally written in 1983. So it was during the heart of the Brixton riots. MJ released Michael Jackson Thriller. There was a lot of socialist movement in Britain. And I just think it's a really interesting book. So yeah, let me just like read an extract because I think it's so cool. Okay. To Olive Morris and Sylvie Eric, who were true sisters in the struggle, may this book keep your memory alive, and to Geraldine Bean for her guidance in the early years and her continuing inspiration. So Lola Acolisi, a journalist, wrote this bit. History, more often than not. Okay, so I'm going to hold it this way. History, more often than not, tells us the story of the powerful. It is the details behind their victories that are amplified and given room within the national consciousness to become words like fact and truth. Such objectivity, we know, is merely a form of subterfuge hiding those other stories that can be told of marginalized voices forced into positions of silence and obscurity. Thus, to archive such sideline narratives, collating and giving them a space in which to articulate their lived experiences is no neutral undertaking in the heart of the race. Black women's lives in Britain. It is the work of a radical feminist politics that seeks to serve and defend the communities of women represented in this groundbreaking book. It is work that wrestles the incredible power invested in memory, making for those who ordinarily would be cast aside. The stories of the women captured within cannot be obscured. They cannot be dismissed as insignificant or unknowable. Reading them more than 30 years later, today's generation of black feminists will be sure to recognize their mothers, their grandmothers, their aunties, and also, depressingly, ourselves. The struggles succinctly captured in the heart of race continue to plague black communities in the 21st century. Black Caribbean, mixed white, black, and Caribbean pupils are 3 times more likely to face permanent exclusion from school, and it is credible, possibly, that the 3/4 of young black men aged 18 to 35 have their DNA profiles in police national database. It's a grim, if clear, reflection of the disproportionate rates of not only stop and searches, but also arrests of young people. In 2012, an all party parliamentary group reported that since the 80s, unemployment rates among black women have continued to be consistently higher than their white counterparts. Swinging cuts, first introduced by the Liberal Democrats and Conservative coalition governments, will only see such figures rise. Nearly half of black women of Caribbean descent and over a third of black African women are employed by the public sector. Black women continue to be more likely to live in poverty, and a disproportionate number have low paid or insecure employment. In their chapter on the uncaring arm of the state, Black Women Health and Welfare Services, the authors write that legislation designed to protect the NHS from abuse by foreigners means that hospitals now record our medical history, our immigration status. 3 decades later, the current Conservative government is being condemned for forcing NHS doctors to act as border guards in its crackdown against migrants and forced to defend its appalling treatment of the Windrush generation. It was chilling to read only a few months after the destruction of Grenfell Tower the cumulated effects of 25 years of racist housing policies, which have ensured that growing numbers of black women are imprisoned on the upper floors of dilapidated tower blocks in every inner city. Currently, most of the children living above the fourth floor of England's tower blocks are black or Asian. 30 years on from this initial reception, black as a political identity under which empires unaccounted for children could unite has become hotly contested. Yet the anti-colonial, anti-imperialist sentiments that made such solidarity possible and which forcibly run through this book can be seen in the work of activist groups today. The spirit of cognate anger, urgent activism that forms the basis of this book has been reignited as the battles over equality outlined within its remains with us. It's a text pertinent to now precisely because it charts the way in which those before us have engineered successes despite a system of intractable sexism and racism. It teaches that through collective action and being grounded in our communities, we can recover our agency. The myriad black women whose stories have been preserved and passed down to us passionately proclaimed their rightful place in Britain's history. It's on their shoulders that we stand. I think that's a very good introduction to it. So, it's basically a book that they decided to write about themselves, and they got, black women who have faced similar problem a chance to meet up in the 80s and discuss what life in Britain was like. Reading this book, it's just so amazing. And I'm going to be reading a bit of a extract from this book and just give you a right feeling of, what went on during the 80s in Britain and how this book is really relevant today, to be honest.